tell you a little bit about something called a 360 deal. This is a new model used by record labels and refers to a new kind of arrangement between artists and a record label in which the record label takes a percentage of everything the artist does in exchange for the label actively looking for opportunities for the artist across many different kinds of platforms. In order to understand why 360 deals are a hotly contested issue, it is important to understand a little bit about the history of the relationship between musicians and record labels. A traditional record label deal works in the following way. The record label will front the money for recording, distributing, and marketing the artist, and then when the record sales come in, the label takes all of the money up until the point that the artist recoups expenses, and at that point, when the money is paid back, the artist begins to see record royalties. By the way, signing bonuses are also a recoupable expense, and everything that they give you in tour support, the cost of producing videos, and packaging and distribution are also recoupable expenses. So in this old system, a lot of artists never recouped at all, at least not right away. It was sort of a long-term game for a lot of labels and artists. But musicians could make a little bit of a living while building their fan base in other kinds of ways. Musicians could keep the money that they earned playing shows. The merchandise that they sold at those shows was theirs to keep. The earnings from the merchandise was theirs to keep. And songwriting royalties in general were kept with the people who wrote the songs and the band. These income streams were not required to be shared with the record label as part of repaying them for expenses incurred. As long as record sales were healthy, record labels could afford to sign artists knowing that a lot of them would not recoup costs because the ones who hit big and they paid for all of the other projects that lost money. Now, of course, record labels never like to lose money. Nobody ever likes to lose money. But no talent scout in the history of the music industry has ever had 100% accuracy in predicting the next big thing. Also, a lot of great artists took some time to build, and so labels could afford a more long-term approach when sales were healthy. One of the great examples in rock music history of this kind of approach is Bruce Springsteen, who built and built and built over many years until he was Bruce Springsteen. Today, record sales have spiraled downward, so artists are even less likely to recoup costs under the old model style record deals. Because of that, record labels had to look for other ways of generating income from their artists, and the 360 deal was born. 360 deal contracts allow the record label to take a percentage of every part of an artist's income stream. That includes a percentage of corporate sponsorships, merchandise sold at shows, songwriting rights in some cases, live performances, endorsements, everything. Now, as with everything in the record business, all of these terms are negotiable depending on who you are and who you're dealing with. But in general, they're going to take a piece of everything. And in exchange for this, the record label takes an active hand in finding opportunities on these fronts, since they have something to gain if you get, for example, a big Pepsi ad or something like that. Some of the biggest stars today have signed 360 deals that turned out to be extremely lucrative, and it is the primary way that superstars are made. It's the way that you get your, film and corporate and, live music packages and everything sort of working on the same page because, your label has skin in the game, as they say. The concept, however, remains controversial. Working-class musicians, not the pop superstars, but regular guys and girls who are on the road, get downright angry that a record label should have a piece of the grueling work of touring or personal work of songwriting. For example, if you're stuck in a van outside of Knoxville trying to get to your gig, you're all exhausted and you haven't had a vegetable in a couple of days, it's very difficult to understand why a business person in New York City should be getting a piece of the door that you're going to be getting, at that gig in Knoxville that evening. The thing to remember, too, is that record labels can afford to sign 360 deals with a lot of different artists, knowing that some of them won't pan out. But a musician only has one career, and throwing all of your eggs into one basket can seem really scary. Having a good lawyer is key when it comes to being presented with a good 360 deal. As I say, a lot of these terms are negotiable, and you're going to really have to keep your eyes open and think about where you want to be before you sign anything like this. I want to say a word about the record label's perspective when it comes to 360 deals, because it's really easy, I think, especially for musicians, to sort of bash the idea of them taking a piece of everything. From a label perspective, they've spent a bunch of money recording and promoting artists, and I'm sure that they're thinking, the least that artists can do is get out there and work and earn money back any way possible. Everybody knows that, artists are less likely to recoup through record sales alone, and that a 360 deal can be mutually beneficial if you can find a lot of different ways to exploit your work. Understanding the tension here, I think, is central to sort of getting what's going on in the record business in a lot of ways right now, between musicians who are used to keeping some things for themselves and record labels that are searching for new kinds of income.